This time, let me transport you back to the 16th of April 2005. I'm sat down in the 4th week of my new favourite show when this happens. The Doctor's impending demise is met with laughter, and more condemningly, credits. Hey guys! You did it wrong, you gotta go back! He isn't saved the day yet! I think it's fair to say this was a big deal to 10-year-old me. I had only been watching this show for 4 weeks. It was just a TV show. It came into my life like that, and could have left it just as easily. Hey, I was 10 years old. I'd only just got object permanence. I mean, from what I've seen, this guy actually has to get saved half of the time. But that was Series 1. Things were weird back then. If this was to be the end of the Doctor in Episode 4 of Series 1, then so be it, my childhood brain said. And it's that childish excitement and suspension of disbelief that bring us to today's familiar topic. Because apparently I need to make more conventional content, whatever that means. I had another video planned, I had the thumbnail made and everything, but no, I'm going to be a good YouTuber. Today, the greatest and the hatest cliffhangers across all of Who. Alright, aliens in London. Let's resolve the 13-year-old beef. In the years since, I've realised that this isn't even a really good cliffhanger by the show's standards. It's really lackluster. The Next Time trailer shows how he got away almost instantly. But for capturing and playing on that brief moment of childhood innocence, it had me hook, line and sinker. And I love them. You have to admire Rusty Davies for, everything, number one, but number two, reigniting the cliffhanger, bringing over a leftover from a bygone, serialized sci-fi era. Cliffhangers are campy. They're found in vintage sci-fi, comic books. Is this the end of Moriarty? And I'm so happy he brought them through to the modern era. Because although they seem like a very tiny detail, the way this narrative tool is used is actually really indicative of how showrunners like to run their eras. The nature and the stakes of the cliffhangers change with time. In the classic series, it was very much a, whoa, scary monster! Or if one would fail to present itself, there would be a man with a gun on hand. That in particular is probably the worst kind of cliffhanger because it's just so generic. In the 80s, they very much became Doctor reaction gifs, as I like to lovingly call them as we zoom in on Colin Baker's fucking face in that courtroom for the 16th time. Whilst in the early revival, they seem to be very ratings-based in my opinion, geared towards younger viewers, matching the melodramatic reveals and the frenetic adrenaline of his era. You get the feeling you're watching event television. And all of our subplots, every single character is in instant danger. Which is incredibly, incredibly exciting and also incredibly superficial. Because we know that the Doctor will immediately escape the situation almost instantly. Oh, don't think I'm bashing it. The ending of The Stolen Earth has about 8 different cliffhangers. Any one of them could have served as the cliffhanger of a classic series episode. But instead we end on this. Basically saying, watch next week, we want I ratings. Before flipping the audience off entirely. Still not over that, Davies. Still not over that. For the record, I am aware that you pronounce his name Russell T. Davies. It's a very familiar name to me. But would you want to be associated with the man who traumatized a child audience 4 years in a row? There's still a little 5% part of me that is not over the cliffhanger of Utopia. Perfectly executed reveal. Daleks vs Cybermen. Perfect. That is a childhood dream realised for not only my generation of new viewers, but for kind of anybody who's ever grown up with this show. For anybody who's ever had a Dalek action figure. Boom, bitch. That's the kind of ending that gets you ratings and a Radio Times cover. And then not to mention Bad Wolf, which actually maybe hasn't been topped. This is one of the few striking monologues, one of the best performances of the show, that almost has no competition. Just a direct challenge, telling the audience up front, this is what I'm gonna do, watch me do it. Oh, you knew some shit was gonna go down when Murray Gold ramped up. But not every cliffhanger of this era was so cut and dry. Who can forget the mysterious lure of the Satan Pit? This straight up vintage monster reveal out of the 60s. And the dark calling of the end of Waters of Mars. Yeah, maybe the world wasn't ending simultaneously in 5 different time zones, maybe the Daleks and Cybermen weren't fighting above Canary Wharf, but I would say the greatest cliffhanger actually is a bit more unconventional. Boop!
Which one of them do you want us to kill? Maid or matron? Your friend or your lover? Your choice.
Oh my god, perfect. Now, what have we got here? A moral dilemma. It's small scale. It's not an invasion, it's not a twist, it's not a revelation, a reveal, or a fleet. Nah, this is just a community hall dance. We also have some of the most bone-chilling, brilliant performances ever put to this series. You can't give actor Harry Lloyd enough credit for this brilliant delivery. The sardonic glee of this monster playing Baines, of this actor playing a monster playing Baines, it's infectious. Martha's alone, the music swells, and the Tennant's doing the face. And it's an ultimatum, a moral ultimatum, that is so well done that he almost packs the punch of this cliffhanger single-handedly. And not to mention, our lead is nowhere to be seen. Because when it comes down to it, we know that the cliffhanger is a superficial obstacle in the story. Nobody except my stupid 10-year-old ass believes the Doctor could actually die. But of course the Doctor isn't actually in this situation. Sorry kids, he's not here this week. We've grown to like John Smith over the last 45 minutes, but do we trust him making this moral choice? There's no physical obstacle here like usual, instead there's a moral choice, a dilemma, an ultimatum. And this dramatic de-escalation of stakes, especially in the RTD era, has really stuck with me since. And oh look, it's down to Martha to save the day yet again. Sorry guys, the role of the Doctor in this season will be played by Martha Jones. You deserve so much better, my sweet summer child. RTD revitalised the Doctor Who cliffhanger. Completely. Like everything else, now Doctor Who has more oomph. The cliffhangers carry the immediate peril of their predecessors, but also like a soap opera drama twist, the cliffhanger you would find in a drama. Stephen Moffat's era instead used the cliffhanger very differently, instead hinting at a change of tone, or inviting the audience into the next act of the story. There are some brilliant moments, even from its very first, showing the Doctor wielding a gun, something that was really controversial back in 2010. There's the impossible astronaut, which doesn't end on anything except Amy appearing to shoot a child. Moffats are a lot more restrained, but also a lot more hit or miss. One of my least favourites is the ending of The Magician's Apprentice. It's great on the surface, makes for a great final beats, but I think everybody around the country knew exactly how it ended. Yeah, he just shoots the hands. Does he shoot the hands? Oh, he shoots the hands. Because the alternative was forcing us to watch the Doctor shoot a child at 7 PM. I wouldn't put it past the BBC though, mind. What made you want to tune in during his era was maybe a change of scenery, or perhaps a change of stakes. Many of these cliffhangers work on the mystery box, a revelation rather than a sense of urgency. Could this character do this? Every single time the answer is no. The Doctor would never shoot a person. Until he did. But that's not yet. I would say some of the greatest cliffhangers just come from a complete subversion. It's one thing entirely to show danger and run away from a big scary cliffhanger monster, but it's another thing entirely to completely invert the episode, introduce an element which means the story can never be the same again. This is why the bombshell of Heaven Sent hits as hard as it does. I think the one reason I took the Classic Who as quickly as I did was the realization that every episode has a cliffhanger. And they do. Lots of them are incredibly good, but there were also so many that there's of course many duds. As much as I love the John Pertwee era, so many of them just end with awkward cutting. Like the script didn't actually plan for cliffhangers, so instead we just end on this weird shot of a Ogron pressing some buttons. Look out! It's a flaw! Now, a bit of dodgy editing is completely fine as long as the audience knows what it is they saw and what it is the cliffhanger actually is, because they're going to be sitting on that for another week. There's many of these, but honestly I find them incredibly charming. There is of course the obvious, the famous, the literal cliffhanger, where the Seventh Doctor in Dragonfire decides to just dangle himself over an ice cliff into the deep crevice below. Although the writer has tried to cover his ass in the years since, there is no in-script, on-screen reason why the Doctor does this. It's never mentioned again. Honestly, Doc, considering that season, I don't blame you. But this story's pretty good, man. You got a lot to live for. There's also the Sontaran experiments, which no, that's not fair. That is a brilliantly shot bit of Who. But it's also a surprise to nobody when the story is called The Sontaran Experiment. I think Mark of the Rani also marks a particular pathetic low point for the series. I mean, you can see what's going on there too, right? They just drop him down a hill. It's laughable, and yet it's 10 times better and more original than the Doctor suddenly being put to death by a stranger. I hate these ones the most. The final moments of Caves of Androzani episode 3 are rightfully classic and send shivers down my spine, whilst episode 3 of Remembrance gave me a full micro-dissectomy. That's just how bad my spine felt. The non-cliffhangers of Trial of a Time Lord do my nut, as we zoom into the Doctor's face looking frustrated, shocked, or annoyed. Zoom in. Some things never change. But Terror of the Vervoids has some great cliffhangers. I think we all sleep on this story a little bit, but the ending of every episode is just so perfectly executed. I also really like episode 3 cliffhangers that just change the entire plot. Curse of Fenric's a great example. We saved Gallifrey. Uh-oh, it's the Potato Boys. See, there's really good cliffhangers even in the worst of stories, and vice versa. I'm so happy that the cliffhanger has persisted how it has. It reverts me, even for just a little bit, back to my 10-year-old self. I'm not so gullible anymore, but it's always about the journey, not the destination. Well, sometimes it's about a big monster going, "Rawr." And that's pretty cool too. At the moment we don't have cliffhangers in the series, but they will be back. It is inevitable. They are a staple of this show, just as much as its persistent, endearing fanbase. Thank you for watching. In the comments below, please tell me the worst cliffhanger the series has ever seen. Only the bad ones. I want to marathon them. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. What's that?